Ladies and gentlemen, now today we're going to be having our first look at the buffed up version of White Magneto, also known as Magneto Marvel Now. Now I think this character brings some really good stuff to the table, especially in terms of his synergies and also his pre-fight ability. However, just purely based on his gameplay performance in comparison to the red version, at least in my opinion, is much better, especially for fighting metal characters. But just keep in mind that they are two completely different characters once they are buffed up, because at the moment they are, pretty much the same character, but they go down very different ways and they have different play styles, different rotations. And yeah, the red one does hit a lot harder comparatively speaking, but to be honest, man, I don't think the white one has bad damage once he gets ramped up. But the ramp up, it does take a little while to get into, and even on short fights there are certain ways you can play him to get some fairly decent damage output. But once you've got a fair amount of prowess going on, like the special 1 and special 2, if they do crit, can hit really hard, as you're about to see against this Realm of Legends Hulk. I think in this fight we managed to get some very close to 100k special 2s, but he doesn't have the amount of prowess stacks that the red version can reach. So yeah, the prowess and special attack damage is a lot scarier on the red version, but there we go, nice little 93,000 special 2 crit there. And because Hulk was suffering from an armor break on the special 1, we inflict 2 stacks of bleed, and you can see the bleed has a pretty healthy duration, and is dealing about 1,000 damage every half a second, so 2,000 damage every second. So the special 2, with everything combined, actually does hit really hard, but again, it takes a while to get into the fight, and also this Magneto is a lot more reliant on crits than the red version, because the red version, his best special attack is the special 3, whereas if you don't see exciting crits on the special 1 and special 2 on this one, then yeah, you're losing out on loads of damage. But you can see once we got him going, man, hitting like a truck, doing a really good job. But let's have a look at some of the abilities and talk about some of the stuff this Magneto brings to the table. Now, as I mentioned toward the start of this video, the white version of Magneto has a bit of a focus on helping out his teammates in comparison to taking all of the power for himself, and he does this via his pre-fight ability and also his solo synergy as well. Now, to talk about the pre-fight, he's going to start any quest with 6 persistent charges. So even if you don't play this character, you just have him in the team, it allows you to use the pre-fight 3 times. Now, activating the pre-fight, you spend 2 persistent charges and you place a guidance effect on the entire fight, and this is going to last until the defender is defeated, but these don't stack, so attackers in the fight gain 15% attack ratings. That is a really substantial bonus there as well. And on top of that, if you are playing a character that is metal or #hero, the attacker will trigger a passive stun effect instead of a regular one off the parry mastery. So this is really good for scenarios like fighting skill champions where they can shrug off your stun debuffs. I believe it also works quite well against the Collector and also Annihilus as well, if it's the same as Storm Pyramid X's one. So yeah, this could be really good in the right scenario to help you get through a tricky fight where you can't rely on kind of the regular stun debuff. Maybe this one might be able to swoop in and make certain fights much easier. So yeah, it's like a nice 2-part pre-fight. Again, you can use that 3 times on 3 opponents every single quest, so maybe like 2 annoying fights and save one for the boss fight as well to make it a little bit easier. But on top of that, he does have this solo synergy. So the synergy Atonement, any hero champions gain plus 8% attack rating, and metal champions gain plus 10% ability accuracy. If they're a hero and metal, they gain both. So looking at all the benefits combined, that 15% attack bonus from the pre-fight ability, plus the 8% attack rating, that's 23% more attack if you activate the pre-fight, plus if you're using a metal champion as well, it's 10% ability accuracy on top of that. So that's like a really solid chunk of additional stats for all sorts of very high-performing metal hero characters. We got certain characters like Colossus, Archangel, X-23, Wolverine, Dragon Man, Darkhawk, Guardian, Guillotine, Gwenpool, Iron Man, Infinity War, stocking on Spider-Man, even Stealth Suit Spider-Man's a metal character as well, Warlock, Wasp. So there are a lot of characters that can take massive advantage of pretty much every aspect, and if we like filter out the the metal as well. There's just so many characters that can get like that 23% attack bonus. I mean, passively they're always going to have 8%, but on the fights that you really need it, you can get up to 23% additional attack. So yeah, I think his synergies are really, really nice. In terms of like pumping up a specific character, he's probably got some of the strongest tools to do that if you're just looking to focus on, you know, one particular character and just make them even more overpowered. So yeah, synergy-wise, man, he's going to make some already pretty crazy champions even crazier. Now, in terms of his synergies as well, he's got a few for other characters. Really good one with X23, which increases bleed and cruelty duration by 35% there. Also allows Cable to start with 60% poison resistance, which is going to be really good for poison scenarios with Cable. Again, he needs a bit more than that to be a really good character. Taskmaster fans, exploit weakness, attacks deal 40% more damage. So yeah, I imagine in combo with the special one, that could be pretty damn nice. We also have a mystery one, I assume with like next month's champions, called Rise Against the Contest. But this synergy gives Magneto plus 5% attack rating during the fight, but also increases the potency of the Atonement synergy by 25%. So you get like, I think it's like 2% more attack and 2% more ability accuracy, you know, something along those lines, man. But hey, it's not too bad. Then we've got one with Guardian and Colossus. So Magneto defeating villain champions gives him 1 additional persistent charge and also gains 10% attack while fighting villains. Colossus, opponents nullify and stagger effects suffer minus 65% ability accuracy, and Guardian gains his force field charges 3.5 seconds faster. And then just below that, there's kind of just additional synergies that he had previously. Ones with like all of the X-Men, like Cyclops, Wolverine. So yeah, just some pretty nice stuff on top of the synergies that he already had. So now that we've talked about the synergies, man, let's talk about the actual character himself. So the first thing he has is Magnetism, and this, at least in my opinion, is nowhere near as good as the Red Magneto's Magnetism. So against metal champions, he's going to give them minus 70% ability accuracy, minus 15% combat power rate, and also any debuffs on them last 25% longer, and also gains 750 attack. However, he doesn't remove class disadvantage like the red one does. So yeah, the attack kind of like neutralizes against tech champions and makes it like regular attack. But again, it could be a little bit more of an exciting bonus there. I think probably the best thing here is the minus 70% ability accuracy. Very good against like Realm Legends Wolverine for lesser regeneration procs, and also the Crossbones and Axe 6.1 to make Arc Overload fail as well. So yeah, there are some uses for it. It's like nice to have, but it's just not quite as good as the red ones there. Also, it's just listed here that his attacks deal energy damage instead of physical. But this Magneto, in comparison to the red one, has full immunity to all bleed effects. So that is a really good thing when it comes to this one, especially if you're not running willpower there. So yeah, fully bleed immune. However, with this one, you are throwing like more special ones, more special twos, so he doesn't synergize like quite as well with the suicide masteries, whereas the red version is really all about that special 3, man. Like, there's just so much damage on that special 3. It is a little bit ridiculous. So we got his persistent charges. He's going to start every single quest with 6, and defeating an opponent gives him 1 persistent charge. If they're metal, he gains 2 instead. With the awakened ability, he gains a further 1, and also if you have the villain defeating synergy, you can gain up to 4 if you KO like the right opponent there. But this is also where his pre-fight ability, you kind of need to figure out like how and when you want to play this character, if at all. So landing hits and being struck grants a 5% chance per persistent charge to gain a 10-second prowess buff, granting plus 10% special damage. So if you want to play this champion and him to be like pretty good, you ideally need like 6 or 8 persistent charges. So yeah, you don't want to like dump all of the persistent charges early on and then try to use this character, or else you're just not going to be able to get the prowess buffs, and that is core to how this champion deals damage. So keep that in mind. That is a very important thing about this character. It makes him a little bit awkward as well. I wish the second line like wasn't in here, man, and that like his rotation wasn't affected at all by his persistent charges, and that was just a completely separate thing. But again, this is beta, so stuff is subject to be changed a little bit. Now, moving down, we've got his pre-fight ability, which we already covered a little bit earlier. And next up, we got heavy attacks. So whenever you land a heavy attack, you gain a prowess buff that lasts for 30 seconds. And this gives you a 35% increase to your special attack damage. So this is like the big prowess buff that you need to make sure that you have active whenever you throw any special attack. Because, yeah, there's just crazy damage bonus of having 3 stacks there, but there is a way to pause this one and also the other one via the special 3, so it makes it a bit less maintenance to deal with, but also based on the amount of prowess that he has, he gains additional effects when he fires off a special attack. So if he's got 1, he gains 50% ability accuracy, 3, it's 50% buff and debuff duration, 6 or above, it's plus 50% buff and debuff potency, and 9 prowess attack grants the opponent 80% less power. So all of this stuff scales with the secondary effects and stuff that triggers on the special attacks. So the special 1, you'll see here, like the special 1 and special 2 have a 70% chance to apply their stuff, but again, if you factor in the increase to ability accuracy, it goes up to 100% there. So special attack 1 is going to inflict an armor break debuff, removing 1 armor up and reducing armor rating by just over 1,000 for 14 seconds. Again, the duration and the potency of this are increased by the amount of prowess you have, and it's very easy most of the time to stay over 6 prowess. The special attack 2 inflicts a bleed debuff, causing 3,000 direct damage over 6 seconds. But again, with the prowess scaling and debuff duration and potency, this is actually a fair bit more than it looks on paper, as we saw in that Hulk matchup. However, again, if the opponent is armor broken, you do get a second one. But if the opponent is metal, then it instead inflicts a degeneration debuff, so you can degen bleed immune opponents, which is very, very nice as well. And then finally on the special attack 3, you gain a cruelty buff, increasing crit damage by 400 for 40 seconds. But while this buff is active, his existing prowess buffs remain paused, so you don't need to worry about refreshing like any prowess that you've already accumulated. So for longer fights and scenarios, this is really, really nice, because you race to the special 3, you know, you get all your prowess buffs on the way up, you just smash them with a few combos, fire off 3 heavy attacks, then special 3, and then you can just go ham, because it's even more than 40 seconds, because you gain, what is it, plus 50% buff duration as well, and also increases the buff potency a little bit further, so I think it's more like 600 crit damage rating for about a minute there that pauses all of your prowess buffs. So in longer fights like Realm of Legends, I find it like very beneficial to just race up to the special 3, because then you don't need to worry about firing off heavy attacks. You can just nuke in and try and race up to your specials as fast as possible, because then the combo becomes, okay, you need the special 1 ideally to get the armor break, get the huge damage increase, but also to apply that secondary bleed on the special 2, and then yeah, fire off the special 2, get massive damage, win game. So that's pretty much how the character works, as we saw in the first Realm of Legends Hulk matchup. But yeah, quite simple, quite straightforward. However, we do have the Awakened ability as well. So Magneto's bleed and armor break debuffs gain additional duration based on how much bonus special damage he's gaining from prowess effects, and this goes up to a maximum of 150% prowess, but also the secondary effect is knocking out an opponent grants an additional persistent charge. So I'd say for this Magneto, the Awakened ability is certainly nice to have, because it's going to make it easier to, you know, get a longer armor break and longer bleed and make the rotation a bit more comfortable, but it's not needed to still make him a decently hard-hitting character. Like, he's still got the damage, he's still got the source outside of it, because the majority of his damage does come from the prowess and like the massive crits on the special 1 and special 2, and the Awakened ability doesn't really impact that too much, but again, it's going to be a very nice thing for the character to have that's just going to give him a bit more damage and make his rotation a little bit more comfortable, a little bit less stressful overall. But yeah, overall, I think he's got a nice buff. He's certainly much, much better than he is currently on the live version of the game, but comparatively speaking, man, the better of the two Magnetos, the highly sought after softer one, I think, is going to be the red version of Magneto, just because he's so much better on the beta in comparison to the white version. Again, I don't think the white version is a bad character. I still think he brings a decent amount to the table. Like, by himself, he is a fun character to play, and the rotation involves a lot less heavy charging, because there's no heavy charging on this version, and some people, I think, are really not going to like the heavy charging on the red version of Magneto. But it all comes down to, you know, players and their play style, whereas this one, once you get the prowess buffs, you can really mash in. But yeah, overall, Red Magneto is a little bit better than this lad, but this lad, you know, he's not a bad champion, at least in my opinion. But anyway, let's jump into a couple more fights before we round off today's first look. So I thought we'd start with everybody's favourite, Realm of Legends Wolverine. Now, to activate his pre-fight, really easy, just double tap on the character, you can consume 2 charges to again activate that 15% attack bonus throughout the fight. Currently though, there's a little bit of a bug with his magnetized parry on the beta, and it's not always working. I think he accidentally applies the ability accuracy reduction to himself or something, so sometimes we get parries and we don't see the stun proc, but then it procs like a little bit later. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, man. Hopefully by the time this goes live, it's all going to be fixed, all going to be dandy, and all going to be good. But yeah, I also didn't play like super well toward the start of this Wolverine encounter here. Managed to get off a couple of heavy attacks there, which is really, really nice. But again, the goal initially on longer fights and encounters is you do want to get up to that special 3, so you can pause all of your prowess buffs, and then you don't need to worry about weaving heavy attacks in order to keep on refreshing that 30-second prowess buff. So I like that they've got, you know, a way to take a bit of the stress off that fight. And then yeah, once you've got that special 3, you can see all the prowesses are paused, aside from the new ones that we gain via nuking him with a combo. But it's also a little bit weird as well, because you can refresh some of the combo ones that you get, the ones that have like a 5% chance per prowess, and then they'll get rid of the ones that were passive. However, a very, very nice special 1 double crit there. And also, if you're paying very close attention, you'll notice Magnetism is on Realm of Legends Wolverine, so it's reducing his ability accuracy and chance of proccing regeneration by a really significant amount. I believe while this guy is stunned, there's like no chance of him ever proccing regeneration, but I'm not too sure if that also works with like the passive stun as well. But yeah, you're pretty much seeing no regeneration on this guy, which is really, really nice. There might be a little bit here and there. Again, there still is a chance for it to proc, but here, now that we got the armor break on the opponent, what we're trying to do is race up to the special 2, and hopefully when we fire off, we're going to have 10 or 11 stacks of prowess. We also have 1 bonus stack via the synergy, and there we go, 100k special 2. Unfortunately, he gets a little bit lucky, procs a double regeneration there, so goes back up a little bit. But you can see the degen is still ticking, regardless of whether or not the opponent is bleed immune. As long as you're flying a metal character, it always applies degen instead of bleed. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not so great, because obviously you don't have the deep wound synergy. But still, that was not too bad for Realm of Legends Wolverine, man. Now, to round off today's video, we've got 2 fights against X-23 and also 1 against a biohazard invisible woman. And I think one thing that kind of became a bit more apparent as I did more and more testing is really just how reliant this guy is on critting on the special attacks in order to get that really juicy damage, because there isn't anything that's really giving him like great damage at his base. You really do need to get lucky and get massive crits on the specials if you do want some exciting numbers. And in some fights, you're going to get really lucky, you're going to see those massive numbers, and in other fights, you know, the specials are going to fall a little bit short. But the good news is he's kind of like reliable enough that he's eventually going to get the job done and be a really good tool for progressing players in a lot of scenarios. But here you can see we fire off the special 2, just a 27k non-crit. But in all fairness, there are a lot of, you know, very underwhelming champions in this game that like 27k fully maxed out is like a good crit for them. But yeah, I guess those are the really, really bad characters, man. So it's still nothing to be super, super excited about. But especially, you know, when you've got them ramped up and you have that special 3 crit damage buff as well, like you are really only going to see the massive numbers and massive performance if this man is landing some crits. So yeah, here we go for another cheeky combo, straight into special 2. It still didn't get the crit. I think that was only about 22,000 damage. Again, there's a bit of degen off it as well, which certainly does add to the overall damage value and make it, you know, somewhat decent, even if you don't land a critical strike. But I really do wish, you know, especially the red version just being so crazy, that the white version did like a little bit more, or had something that like guaranteed that his special attacks were going to crit, maybe if you had the cruelty active, or if you had like the armor break active, or if there was just some way over a certain amount of prowess maybe. I think there could be additional mechanics added to this character just to make him more fun and more reliable to play without making him a broken champion. I think with the amount of build up, if he had cruelty and like 10 prowess and then that guaranteed crits, man, on the special attacks, I think that'd be a really, really good thing to do for the champion. So yeah, I'd like to see like a few changes this champion brought up a little bit, because I think he's going to have a bit of a mixed reception. I think, you know, in comparison to the red version, there are going to be a lot of people that don't even watch the full video, maybe watch the first minute or so and just go, this character's trash, in the comments section. And I don't think he's trash. I do think with his buff he's better than about 50% of characters in this game, but he still kind of walks that line of he's nothing like really, really special and impressive on his own. He brings some really good stuff to the table via his pre-fight ability and synergy, and I think because those bonuses are so strong, that's going to be one thing that a lot of players really do take advantage of. But I think that's maybe going to be the primary use for this character, is just to buff up already existing very crazy and very overpowered god tier characters. But for progressing players, if you get him as like your first 6-star champion, or maybe they add him in the future as a 5-star character, or you pull him like early 4-star, I think White Magneto is going to be a decent enough character for getting certain fights and encounters down. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the community react to him and how people feel about him once the buff is live. But yeah, if you did enjoy today's breakdown, please do smash that like button. Thank you all very much for watching, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.